Throughout history, power has always been measured by fear. There were kings who commanded armies, dictators who shook the world. But in the modern era, there was only one man who struck terror into the heart of every man on the planet. With just his 2 fists and a pair of black trunks, he transcended the sport of boxing. He was not an athlete. He was a gladiator belonging to the Roman Colosseum, unleashed upon the modern world. People didn't tune in to watch a boxing match. They tuned in to watch an execution. Iron Mike Tyson. But that monster you saw, that invincible machine of destruction, was an illusion. Beneath the muscles, the tattoos, and the savage glare, lived a little boy who was trembling, gasping for air, paralyzed by fear. This is not a story about punches. This is the tragedy of a man who climbed from the darkest streets of Brooklyn to the peak of Mount Olympus, and then fell into a hell of his own creation. What is the price of turning fear into godlike power? If you are ready, let's step into the darkness. Brownsville, New York. The place where the American dream turns into a nightmare. In the 1970s, this wasn't a neighborhood. It was a war zone. And in the middle of this battlefield, walked a defenseless target named Michael Gerard Tyson. When you imagine the future baddest man on the planet, you don't picture this. Mike was small. He was overweight. He wore huge glasses. And when he spoke, people laughed, because he had a lisp. Little Fairy Boy. That was his nickname on the streets. He was beaten every single day. At school, on the corner, at the store. His lunch money was stolen, his glasses were crushed, his dignity was trampled on. Mike was so afraid of the world that he wouldn't even go home. He would hide between abandoned buildings, shivering in the dark until nightfall. The wounds opened in Mike Tyson's soul during those years ran deeper than any cut he would ever receive in the ring. He learned what it meant to be powerless. And when a child believes the world is his enemy, he seeks love not in people, but elsewhere. Pigeons. They were Mike's only escape. The coops on the rooftops were his sanctuary. The birds didn't mock him. They didn't judge him. But in Brownsville, no innocence goes unpunished. A bully named Gary, older and bigger, grabbed one of Mike's favorite pigeons. Mike begged. He cried, "Please, just let him go." The bully laughed and ripped the bird's head off with his bare hands. The blood splattered onto Mike. In that second, history changed. Fear was replaced by pure, unadulterated rage. For the first time in his life, Mike attacked. Like a man possessed, he beat the older boy. He didn't stop. He hit him until there was blood, until the bully was on the ground. That day on the rooftop, the scared little boy died. And in his place, a bloodthirsty warrior was born. Mike realized something profound. When I hurt them, they respect me. When I inflict pain, they love me. It was a dangerous lesson. A lesson that would take him to the top of the world, and then drag him to ruin. By the age of 13, Mike Tyson's rap sheet was as thick as an encyclopedia. 38 arrests. The system had given up on him. They saw a criminal, a lost cause. He was left to rot in a juvenile center. Until a guard noticed the raw, natural power in his fists. They took him to the only man who could tame this wild horse, Cus D'Amato. Cus D'Amato, the philosopher of boxing. A paranoid, brilliant, disciplined master. When Cus saw Mike, he didn't see a thug. He saw an uncut diamond, an uncarved statue. Cus adopted Mike. He didn't just give him a home, he gave him a mindset. This relationship was far more than coach and athlete. Cus was the sculptor, and Mike was the clay. Cus' method was more mental than physical. He knew about the deep terror inside Mike. Instead of denying it, he taught him how to use it. Every night before Mike slept, Cus would sit by his bed and whisper, "You are a god. You are the greatest. No one can stand before you." They fear you. In psychology, this is called hypnotic suggestion. Cus stripped away that fragile ego and built a suit of armor made of steel. And then came the peekaboo style. Mike was short. His reach was less than other heavyweights. Cus turned this disadvantage into a lethal weapon. Hands on the cheeks. Head constantly moving. Be an elusive target. Get inside. And destroy. The math was simple. If the opponent can't hit you, you can hit him. Mike, at 215 pounds, began to move with the speed of a flyweight. Planted feet, generating torque from the ground up, delivering the hardest punches human biomechanics allowed. The heavy bag. Shadow boxing. Skipping rope. Mike Tyson was no longer human. He was a biological weapon manufactured in Cus D'Amato's laboratory, designed for one purpose: destruction. In 1985, the cage door was opened. The boxing world was in shock. They had never seen anything like this. Muhammad Ali danced. George Foreman pushed. But Mike Tyson? He entered the ring like he wanted to commit murder. Fights didn't last rounds. They lasted seconds. Opponents had lost the match before they even stepped through the ropes. Tyson's famous walk, the towel, the no socks, the black trunks. It wasn't a fashion statement. It was a message: I'm not here to put on a show. I'm here to take a life. November 22, 1986. History was written. Trevor Berbick, the heavyweight champion of the world. Before the fight, he looked down on Tyson. But the poison Cus had injected was flowing through Tyson's veins. In the second round, Tyson landed a left hook so devastating, it destroyed Berbick's equilibrium. Berbick tried to get up, fell. Got up again, fell again. At 20 years old, Mike Tyson stood at the summit of the world. But it wasn't just about belts. It was about loyalty. When the legend Muhammad Ali was beaten by Larry Holmes, a 14-year-old Mike called Ali and promised, "I will get him for you." Years later, he faced Holmes. And he knocked Holmes out for the only time in his career. Mike Tyson wasn't just defeating opponents. He was retiring them. The peak. Michael Spinks. Undefeated. A legend. But the sound of Tyson punching a hole in the locker room wall was enough to make Spinks surrender his soul. 91 seconds. In 91 seconds, Mike Tyson earned $22 million. In that moment, he was the most famous, richest, and most feared man on the planet. He was iron, unbreakable, unbending, or so we thought. You can defeat a warrior in the ring, but to destroy a legend, you must rot him from the inside. The first and biggest crack in Mike's armor appeared with the death of his father figure, Cus D'Amato. The only voice that could keep Mike in line, the only man who could say no, was gone. When Cus died, the vultures circled. Fake friends. Money chasers. They told Mike what he wanted to hear, not what he needed to hear. Discipline vanished. Training faded. The parties began. Mike Tyson was still dangerous, but he was no longer sharp. Tokyo, 1990. Buster Douglas. An underdog given 42-1 odds. Tyson hadn't even trained properly. He walked into the ring straight from the parties. His corner didn't even have an ice bag. When his eye swelled shut, they used a latex glove filled with tap water. It was a tragedy. And then, Tyson fell. The image of him crawling on the canvas, fumbling for his mouthpiece. It wasn't just the loss of a title. It was proof that a god could bleed. Millions were in shock. The invincible Mike Tyson had been knocked out. The fall accelerated. Rape charges. Trials. Headlines that turned into a media lynching. And finally, 3 years in prison. From the top of the world to a 6x8 concrete cell. Everything he owned, the money, the fame, the power, stayed outside the iron bars. It was just him and the dark silence of his childhood once again. But iron is forged in fire. Prison wasn't the end for Mike. It became his school. There, when the noise of the outside world was cut off, Mike looked inward. He began to read history, philosophy, religion. He realized he had to kill his own ego, kill the Iron Mike character, because the rage that took him to the top was now destroying him. He fought again when he got out. He made mistakes again. But as the years passed, the wild animal was replaced by a wise man. Look at Mike Tyson today. You can still see the fire in his eyes. But that fire no longer burns the forest down. It just keeps him warm. He went back to his pigeons. He embraced his family. He accepted that losing teaches you more than winning ever could. He laid down the title of the baddest man on the planet, and simply became Mike. What does the story of Mike Tyson teach us? This is not just a boxer's tale. This is the extreme of human nature. It shows us that it doesn't matter where you start. You can have $0 in your pocket and become the most feared man on earth. But it also gives us a warning. If you do not train your mind, your talent cannot save you. Power without discipline is just a disaster waiting to happen. Getting to the top is hard, but staying there requires character. Now look in the mirror. Do you feel that fear inside you, the same fear Mike felt on that rooftop? Good, because that fear is your fuel. Use it, train it, and never surrender. This is Zero to Glory.